All right. Well, good day, everyone. We want to welcome you to one of our Broker Concierge monthly broker webinars. Today's title is Embracing Compliance to Facilitate Agency Growth. Wait, what do you say? Embracing compliance? What? We need to have that kind of a conversation with our clients? Ooh, sometimes those conversations, Steve, get a little, I don't know, they're not as friendly. Some are really good, some are not so good, right? I seem to cause a lot of anxiety with clients, right, in those conversations. I think we're all kind of, to some degree, thinking that, have experienced it. But we believe here at PrimePay and part of our Broker Concierge program that if you embrace the compliance conversation with your clients, we actually believe and are quite confident that it will facilitate agency growth. It can absolutely have an impact on your objectives for your agency or for you as a benefits broker or producer in the coming year. And so what we've done here at PrimePay is actually create two webinars. The first one here today on embracing compliance is really focused on key messaging and introducing this conversation with your clients. A lot of times it's simply just getting things started, getting it initiated, driving that early engagement, right? And so today we want to give kind of an overview of some key topics, but also to focus not only on the business issue, but also what I'm calling the embracing challenge. You know, the ability for you to take that compliance conversation and actually turn it into something that's going to facilitate some agency growth. So that's going to be kind of an overview for you today. But we've created actually a second webinar, which we will hold here in April, that is part 2 on embracing compliance. And that is where we're going to take some practical application. You know, as many of you know who've attended our webinars over the years, you know, we try to take that specific strategic plan design or technical guidance, whatever it may be, and really be able to turn it into practical use. Because ultimately you have to take that technical topic, whatever it is, and actually be able to communicate it with your clients and to your clients and make it meaningful. So in part 2 of embracing compliance, we're going to hone in on 2 case studies, a small group case study and a large group case study. And we're going to bring several of these key compliance items to life. And I think you're going to be very interested in kind of hearing in how we dissect those specific case studies and really make it impactful, not only for your client, right, but ultimately impactful for your agency. All right, so we hope that you will certainly gain some knowledge here today, but also then please join us in our webinar here next month as we really dig a little deeper, kind of get into the nitty-gritty of how we can really make it work. All right, so that's kind of a quick summary of what we want to try to tackle here for you today. But I failed to introduce myself. My name is Steve Jackson. I'm the Senior Vice President of Broker Concierge, our broker partner program here at PrimePay. And I am thrilled that you have joined us. We actually have quite a number on here today. I don't know if it's due to the Northeast blizzard that's going on. And since this is a webinar, you can curl up at your fireplace and watch the webinar. What else would you do, right? You don't want to shovel snow. So thank you. And for those of you dealing with the snowstorm here in the Northeast, be safe out there, certainly if you have to be out there and in it. But for the rest of you, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit with us today. I think, as always, each month we try to bring valued content. And today it's a little different, a little unique flair where we're talking about a specific conversation. And I want you to bring it to life for your employers, your clients, your prospects. But I also want you to visualize how it can have a positive impact to your agency. Let's cover some of the logistics here today if we can. Everybody's phone lines have been muted, but we would still love to hear from you. If you have a specific question, as I go through the content here today, you can enter your question at any time, and you can do so by going into the GoToMeeting box, the question box, and go ahead and type in your question. So please do that here at any time. The number one question that I often receive is, hey, Steve, are you recording this? Yes, the answer is yes. And what I'd ask you guys to do is that if you subscribe to our Broker Concierge YouTube channel, by subscribing, you'll get notified as to the very time that we actually upload the recording into YouTube. And so that's a great way for you to be notified. Also, I don't know if you also know, we actually have other recordings. Our regional advisors produce a 315. You're going to want to check it out. They cover generally 3 topics, 1 strategy, under 5 minutes. And there are some great resources there that you can actually get your hands on. So look, you can always view these recordings on our Broker Concierge YouTube channel. All right, so I think that will cover, I think, the logistics here for today. As you see here on most of these slides, and on this first slide here, at the very bottom, we have labeled this the year of the broker. We really believe that 2018 provides some fantastic opportunity for you, the benefits broker. And so we've dubbed it the year of the broker, and we want to try to drive as many tools and resources and solutions for you, equip you, so that you ultimately can go out there and attack new prospects with vigor, win, have chances to win more business, but also really drive a greater client retention as well. And we can do that through our Broker Concierge program, certainly. So let's get into today's agenda, all right? So embracing compliance. You know, as you think about what your clients do for a living, right? So you guys have many groups, many clients, they span all different types of industries, right? Unless you're in a specific niche, you know, of some sort, but they're all passionate about what they do. They make that widget, they provide that specific service, and they know it better than anyone. They love it. They just have a passion. They're most confident in that. But as you know, when you build a business, it's not just the widget or that special service. If you want to grow, you've got to maybe bring in some employees. You need extra help. Well, by bringing in employees, you bring in a lot of other challenges, right? From the Fair Labor Standards Act to wage and hour rules, to benefits, you know, HR related items. The sky's the limit when you do that. And so what has happened, what these employers deal with, is that they're just dealing with maintaining compliance. And you sit in a wonderful spot here as a benefits broker to really help mitigate and reduce these specific risks. But I want you to, as you look at this picture, and actually as I'm looking at it right now, I didn't mean to bring out a political statement certainly here today about a wall. but think of that wall as a compliance wall, right? I mean, it's something, it's a hurdle, it's something that we have to climb and get over and get through. And as you look at that picture, instead of maybe going through that beautiful door, right, that would be built, we have clients that are trying to gain compliance by either going around the wall, they're digging tunnels to get underneath the wall. They might be blasting themselves right through that wall, right, to maintain compliance. The end result, though, as you look at where the arrows finish in this picture, you get a sense that every employer generally is trying to get compliant. They are trying to get compliant. They may be doing it in different ways. I had a CEO of a company here recently tell me that, well, you know, Steve, you know, you were talking about ERISA and some things that we needed to do to become compliant. But you know what? I Googled ERISA and ... Just think about how that conversation went after that. You see, many employers, they do want to become compliant. They just may not have the resources, the ability to get to that next level. And so they're getting at compliance many different ways to get around that wall. So as you think about this topic of compliance, though, as I mentioned kind of in my initial kind of monologue, it's not just bringing up compliance to maybe bring up that uncomfortable discussion of how your specific client or a prospect has not maintained specific compliance in certain areas, not at all. What we ultimately want you to think about here today is that your agency has a goal, right? You've set a business objective. That may be to bring on a certain number of groups for the year. It may be a number of employees, right? Number of lives that you bring on throughout the year. It may be a specific product that you really want to introduce and sell and bring to life for many of your clients. Maybe for others, it's just hitting certain bonus numbers, with a particular carrier. You can really hit it out of the park this year if you hit this number. And so you have a goal to really go after that specific number. See, if you embrace compliance in this conversation, we really believe that you have the opportunity to more easily reach your agency goals. Part of that, as you think about your goal setting for the year, you also should be prioritizing, right? Your activities. What are you going to do to get to that goal? Well, one of those things is recognizing that your clients, your employers, have a lot of demands that are being set on them. And so if you have an opportunity to be able to meet those employer demands, you're going to be well on your way to achieving that goal. Also, when you meet employer demands, generally that's going to increase client dependency, right? They're going to want to listen. Wow, you answered that question really thoroughly and well and quickly. Boy, what can you do maybe with the next question that I have? And guess what? They're going to seek you out. This benefits your foundation, which is your existing clients. Think about, if you just not only increase the number of groups, number of lives, but you increase the number of solutions, the number of benefit offerings that you sell for each and every client that you have. Or if you raised retention from 90% client retention, but through this embracing compliance or by other means, by meeting employer demands, that retention goes to 95%. What is 5% of your overall book? How meaningful is that? I'm going to tell you what, it's very meaningful, even if it's 1%, right? Or 2%. So increasing client retention, you can strengthen that by certainly meeting the various employer demands that they're facing, right? So you might be very interested, right, in creating new revenue streams, and that may be prospecting efforts, going after larger groups. But new revenue streams can come, we believe, could actually, maybe the genesis of a lot of these can come by embracing the compliance conversation. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to actually kind of dive into some of these key topics. And what I've done to try to bring it as an overview, but begin to help you have an ability to start the conversation, I've kind of taken that key topic, and some of these are tied to benefits and some are not, okay? And so I want to give you a mix, because we do believe that if this is the year of the broker, you not only have to have your knowledge and experience on benefits, but you also have to have a broader business conversation as well, okay? So what I want to do is kind of broaden your thought pattern here a little bit. We've got some benefit topics, and then actually a couple here that are not necessarily, but are impactful and worrisome, to an employer, to your client. So I'm going to cover a business issue. Okay, what are the key business issues with this topic? And then I want to talk about the embrace it challenge. Okay, by embracing this topic, what could it do? What could it bring? Right? So that's where I want to try to take it here in each of these topics. So as we look at Section 125 plans and non-discrimination testing compliance, okay, or NDT, the general business issue that is absolutely an issue with virtually most of these clients and prospects is keeping these items current. All right? We'd like to say that a specific compliance item, we can set it and forget it, right? I wish, man, I wish. But that's not the case. And it's certainly not the case with Section 125 plans. You know better than anyone, as you think about your renewal conversations and meetings every year with your client, what are you doing? You're making changes. You're making changes in the benefit plans. You're adding, deleting. You are changing the way maybe a specific benefit is funded, meaning, well, we had an employer contribution to an HSA 2 years ago, but oh, right, yeah, we don't do that anymore. Oh, well, you need to change the language that's within your Section 125 plan document. Maybe you added new provisions like an FSA and a rollover to that document or to your plans, but you never fulfilled that language within the actual document itself. Maybe a specific benefit that you had labeled to be pre-tax contributions early on based on legislative issues or changes, or just a change in how you want to structure that. You changed it to post-tax and but never addressed it within the Section 125 plan document. Think about the legislative changes that have just occurred with ACA alone. There's been mid-year election change language that can be added to Section 125 plans. There are special enrollment rights, right, based on the healthcare, health insurance marketplace and the exchange that's out there and available, and what that gives an individual or provides that individual with special enrollment rights. So those things are occurring all the time. Your clients are not maintaining a current and up-to-date document. A big one is HSAs. As you think about all of your clients who have introduced a qualified high deductible health plan and then have coordinated it through an HSA, that language, that funding must be included in your Section 125 plan documents. That's what needs to happen. So there's some great questions that you can address with your clients specific just to that, keeping them current. Lastly here is with non-discrimination testing. So I'm going to make a statement here, and I'm quite confident in it, but I don't know if it's going to shock you or not. But I'm going to say right now that 80% of your clients do not perform non-discrimination testing on an annual basis. It is required. Not only are they probably not doing it, but they're certainly probably not performing all of the non-discrimination testing, all the tests that are involved with that specific benefit. When you look at HRAs alone, if a carrier is doing the administration or many times, and just another administrator, maybe doing it in-house, performing HRA administration, there's no way that they're performing the Section 105H non-discrimination test behind it. So it's important to ask the questions as we think about the embracing it side of the equation. There are some simple questions, right, to just initiate the conversation. Hey, client, prospect, when's the last time you have updated your Section 125 plan SPD? Silence will speak volumes, right? Wait, SPD? I'm sorry, what is that to begin with? And wait, huh? What? Sure. We've got a Section 125 plan. So that's a great question to ask. Hey, every year I like to just make sure that my clients are performing their non-discrimination test. Do you have a copy of your last year's test that I could view? Hey, listen, if you were in an audit and an IRS auditor comes in and asks you for that test, could you produce it? So the main thing here is there are some simple questions to ask. If you are there, if you're the broker of record, you know that for a period of time they've made changes to their overall benefit offerings, and make the decision now to introduce this specific compliance item with them, that not only have they made their documents current, but have they all actually performed their tests like they should. Keep in mind that audits do occur. We had a client, that came to us that ended up having a $25,000 fine, and they owed back taxes for just a simple premium only plan, a Section 125 plan. Audits do occur. And so you can get well ahead of the curve with each client by ensuring that they are compliant. So the results of the conversation is one, well, one here, compliance, right? Get them into compliance. It's actually pretty easy, but let's take it a step further. I think the results of you embracing it and talking about benefit plans, you're talking about a lot of funding requirements, you're talking about a lot of great discussionary items. And I believe that it can actually absolutely result in additional voluntary benefit sales, being one. There could be certainly many other things, but we've seen time and time again where a benefits broker has succeeded in winning additional voluntary benefit business just by having this particular conversation. Let's go to the next one, and this is big. And I want you to think about how your agency talks about compliance or changes or current events on a regular basis. You know what? You may need to think or maybe rethink how you are doing this here today. Guys and gals, this is actually a pretty big deal, and I think it really enables you to showcase as a benefits broker, as an agency, that you are on the pulse. You've got it. When things are coming out, you understand it, you know where to go to get your answers, but you provide clear and concise communication to your clients. So it's a changing landscape, right? We can't be the purveyors of everything. We can't know everything. You're going to know your subset. You have to team up, right, with partners, maybe such as Prime Pay, to be able to drive some of that additional communication and education and content. But there's other resources there as well. So current events is a big one. So how can I stay current? That's what an employer is saying. That's the business issue. Golly, I didn't even know. I mean, I heard all of the talk about the tax reform, Jobs Act, and gosh, I didn't know some of this stuff was impacted here as well. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, tax rates and withholding allowances and, exclusions, exemptions, all of those things. But man, I didn't hear about a couple of these other things. And this is where you can make that additional impact by embracing compliance and helping them stay current. The first one is just giving some examples. The transit and parking benefit, as of the new tax reform law, right, that came out here at the end of last year. The employer contribution is now disallowed. An employer cannot make an employer contribution for transit and parking benefits. This impacts a lot of employers. Hey, listen, there was no expiration of the end of your plan year. No, there's no employer contributions that can be allowed in transportation and parking benefit accounts. Now, again, employers are going to ask a bunch of questions. Well, wait a minute, what about the employee? All of that is in place. But from an employer basis, there may need to be strategies and conversations around that specific item with your employers. That's a great one, to bring out. If you noticed an important IRS announcement as of Monday, okay, March 5th, IRS came out and said, okay, well, due to some of this tax reform, okay, the Jobs Act, we actually are revising some things kind of right now, and it's effective for calendar year 2018. One of those items is the maximum annual contribution limit for family coverage, for those with family coverage, for health savings accounts. When May time period last year, when they came out with the new limits for 2018, the family contribution annual limit was $6,900. They have now revised that to $6,850. All right. So you say, all right, Steve, it's $50. I mean, how many people are even hitting that max anyway? Well, you've got employees of your employer clients who may have front-loaded their HSA at the beginning of the year. You might have employees who are putting in the payroll deduction that would match the $6,900 figure by the end of the year. And that's going to all have to be changed, right? So embracing compliance, getting this information out to your HSA clients or those with HSAs or your prospects, this tells your clients that you're on the pulse of what's going on here. The FMLA tax credit, right? So based again on tax reform, FMLA tax credit was introduced. Now, you might say, well, Steve, how many employers are going to do this? No, it's the conversation. It's embracing the compliance conversation with them to say, hey, listen, client, you had some FMLA situations last year. Just so you know, if you provide at least a minimum of 2 weeks of paid FMLA, and it's at least at a minimum of 50% of regular earnings, you actually can achieve a tax credit, okay, which was not there before. And so again, are many employers going to move in this direction? I mean, maybe some, right? Not all, but it's a great conversation to have because you might be bringing up something that their HR team, their CEO was thinking about. We're thinking about changing some things. This may be an opportunity for us now that we'd have this tax credit. So as we think about the current events topic, again, communicate. You need to think as an agency, how will you develop a communication strategy to engage these clients and prospects? So I'm not telling you how to do that, what you need to do. It can be a very simple process of just taking immediate information, dissecting it, giving it some time to digest a little bit so that you have the right information and practical application, and then getting that out to clients. And using partners' resources such as PrimePay to maybe help you develop, that specific communication strategy. I'm going to tell you this. By doing this alone, you are going to create a lot of client dependency. They're going to seek you out for answers. Oh, wow, they just gave us great information on this. Wow, I didn't even know what to do, but they really provided direction there. And it is going to provide attractiveness. How great is it in your prospecting efforts to be able to use this information when you go and actually try to prospect, and share with them, hey, this is what we provide. This is the kind of detail, the information that we provide. Here's a story of how that particular piece of content helped one of my clients. Let me share what that meant, right? So current events, changing landscape, a huge part of the embracing compliance discussion. Here is one that you may not have thought of, but can really attack a current business issue, which is going to be for all employers, which is controlling cost, right? How many times have you been in a conversation with a client? You're going through the renewal process, that we've got the renewal rates, what's going to be projected. Yeah, okay. All right, okay, I see that increase. Oh man, what decrease is going to have to occur so that I can actually stomach, that particular increase? So controlling cost is really a big deal. And I want you to consider some recent conversations that some brokers are actually taking on. And it's actually around the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, otherwise known as WOTC. Okay, so think about what you do, what your expertise is at. You're in benefits, you're helping with new hire, waiting periods, eligibility. You talk a lot about new hires and certainly terminations that occur, within that organization and how that employer is actually managing that overall resource, right? I think the average cost for an employer just to bring on a new hired employee, right, from, the recruitment site, to get candidates, the candidate search piece, from the interviewing stage to background checks to onboarding, you can spend $3,000 to $5,000 or more, right? It can be expensive just to bring on one new hire. So, what is Work Opportunity Tax Credit? What it does is that it provides an incentive for employers to hire individuals from certain target groups who have consistently faced barriers to gaining employment. According to some historical data, okay, for WOTC, it estimates that employers can claim credits on approximately 10 to 20% of new hires. And I like this next bullet. Additionally, it's estimated that number climbs to 20 to 40% in the restaurant, retail, and hospitality sectors. So think about your clients. Now, some have very low turnover, right? But I would say for the most, kind of the time that we are in our period here right now, easily employers are seeing 10, 20, 30, 40% or more turnover based on the industry that they are in. And also, you as a benefits broker, maybe you have a niche. Maybe you have a lot of clients in the restaurant, retail, hospitality sector. I don't know, right? But the impact can be significantly felt. Credits range from $1,200 to $9,600. Again, it's only available to new hires, and it's specific to targeted groups. Okay, so look at this list. It focuses on unemployed or disabled veterans. That's a great sector to certainly target and go after. Food stamp recipients. There are empowerment zones. Folks, there are empowerment zones all across the country. And if this employer resides in that empowerment zone or rural renewal county kind of zone, you actually automatically can apply those work opportunity tax credits to those new hires if you're in those zones. That can be huge. This targeted groups also affects ex-felons, summer youth employees, and then part of the TANF recipients, which is the temporary assistance for needy families. Folks, I mean, many of you may not have even considered to talk about these specific items. You know, I mean, there is a process for an employer. There's an application process to determine that that employee, that individual actually would qualify, right? So there's kind of qualification, and then there's a process in which you need to apply, you know, for that credit. I mean, there are solutions that are out there to actually make that more efficient. Prime Pay is one of them. We offer a complete onboarding and WOTC specific solution, electronic solution that actually kind of makes that process even more seamless and much more quick to obtain. But there is real opportunity here. If you think about, you know, an employer hires 10 new employees a year, 20 new employees a year, and if 20 or 40% of those employees would fit this specific or qualify for this credit, just do the math, up to $9,600 per employee. So this results in significant financial savings. If you as the trusted advisor, not tax advisor, mind you, but trusted advisor as it relates to benefits and new hires, employees, you can actually drive significant financial savings here for these employers. That, if you can uncover 10,000, 50,000 or more, right, just in some of these credits, think about the overall result to you. That might open up the door for an additional benefit offering. That might open up the door for other solutions that you ultimately want to discuss with your clients. COBRA. As many of you all know here now, certainly one of the largest areas, the issues or mistakes that businesses have with COBRA is timeliness and forgetfulness. We see it time and time again. One of the big areas of COBRA compliance, and certainly something that you can target each and every time with your clients and prospects, is ensuring that all who should receive an initial rights notice letter does receive one. So when you have a new hire, they enroll in benefits, they should be receiving an initial, or if they're eligible for benefits, I should say, should receive their initial rights notice letters. We find that many employers that come onto our COBRA administration, we find that they have not secured that at all. We end up doing that for a lot of clients. The other piece here, and this is a very broad statement here about the timeliness, but keeping their calendars current. Okay, so an employer's thinking, well, wait a minute, do I have 14 days? Wait, should I give them 60 days to actually respond? Wait. Is there supposed to be a grace period that is added on to the back end of that? What if they're mailing? There's so many different pieces and parts to the calendar of COBRA compliance, and keeping that current is very difficult. You could speak probably to many instances where a COBRA constituent, a qualified beneficiary who was paying for COBRA, ended up terminating COBRA, but that employer simply failed to term them with the carrier, right? Notifying all parties, carriers, QBs, third party, including COBRA continuance and open enrollment periods. I mean, there's a lot of forgetfulness there in that area. And also, lastly, is that updating plan rates and renewals. Just making the changes with you during the renewal meetings and the open enrollment meetings, but then not changing or advising for COBRA rates there. So there's obvious challenges to overcome as we think about the Embrace It challenge for you. Simple questions can be had to really start this conversation. How do you maintain COBRA compliance for your new hires and qualified beneficiaries? Very broad statement, right? But there are significant penalties to avoid. The IRS and the Department of Labor have enforcement activity, okay, for COBRA. And the IRS has specifically listed 15 things, 15 procedures, 15 processes that an employer needs to maintain in order to have COBRA compliance. And in an audit, they're going to ask for those 15 things. So there's significant penalties to avoid, but it is easy, guys. It is easy to actually avoid, all right? And there's definitely financial savings to achieve. I mean, if you are able to embrace this compliance conversation and ensure that your clients are actually turning off COBRA with the carriers on a timely basis. I ran into one client. It was a larger client, okay, a little bit of a turnover issue, all right, but they had found after performing an audit that they had spent over $250,000 more in premiums than they should have with the carrier because they just failed to notify the carrier that this particular individual was no longer on COBRA, right? So simple things. And so think about, by embracing that conversation, some of those financial savings, and then, it enables you to actually go after some additional opportunities with that client. The next is ACA compliance. I do not want to belabor certainly this. We've had our fill of ACA, but there are still some business issues that your clients, your prospects are dealing with. And that's an accuracy of data, the efficient tracking of data. And when I say tracking, it's managing the eligibility and enrollment, okay, right, of those individuals who would need benefits or not need benefits, but it's also reporting. So these are some key things, some key issues clearly that an employer is dealing with. Achieving data integrity. If an employer is utilizing disparate systems, right? I have my payroll system, I have my ACA spreadsheet or worksheet or technology, and I've got my Ben admin solution over here, or again, my filing cabinet, whatever I have. You think about achieving data integrity. If you were to gather all that information today, that information, I hope, based on all the sources that client needs to gather them from, they would be correct today, right? They're correct today. But life goes on. We as employees, as individuals, are making changes all throughout the year, right? Life events, all sorts of things. And so achieving data integrity is not meant for the day. It's meant for the entire year. And so achieving data integrity is big. Monitoring eligibility, ensuring that an individual was deemed to be enrolled in coverage or not to be enrolled in coverage is a big deal. Timely distribution of forms and filing. As of the electronic filing due date, which is coming up here, I believe it's here at the beginning of April is when that is due here for electronic filers. Actually, I think it's March 20th, the end of March, actually, as I'm thinking about that. With that deadline fast approaching, we are still going to have many employers that come through Prime Pay and will be filing late. Okay, so or have distributed their forms in a non-timely basis. So timely distribution of forms and filing, this is a great conversation. Those three are great. The last one is a biggie, okay? And it's responsiveness to letter 226J. This is the letter that is going out from the IRS today, actually since about November of last year, based on the 2015 returns, and basically telling that employer, hey, it's come to our understanding and based on our findings that you failed to file or you failed to offer coverage to this individual, this employee of yours, who qualified for a premium tax credit and received it. I'm going to need you to do some research and review and get back to us on your findings, because what we see today is somewhere of a penalty of X, right? And so the responsiveness, they have 30 days to respond, and we continue to see these letters going out from the IRS to employers. I mean, we keep seeing them. Just had a broker last week say, several of my clients down in the Florida market just received some letters. So they are actively sending these letters out. I'm going to tell you what. The responsiveness, I mean, if your clients do not have a handle on accuracy, tracking, and reporting today, well, first off, what did they do in 2015, right? So the main thing is to ensure that they're doing those things here now. So the Embrace It challenge is this. You've got to get ahead of it. You've got to enable quick and effective tools and quick responses. They're absolutely going to save the day. So questions such as, and these are big questions, how do you monitor your variable hour employees? I hope that the employer is not saying right now, variable hour employees, what? Hopefully by now they get a little better understanding of that. But it's, how do you coordinate the required data today? I mean, if you were to receive a letter 226J from the IRS, you have 30 days to respond. How quickly could you coordinate that required data and get it into an area where you could actually do something with it and respond as best as you can, okay? So these are big conversations to have, but you definitely need to get a hold of it. These letters, 226J, are just the beginning, okay? You can go back to our January webinar where I spoke a little more specifically as to that audit process. So, you can certainly go back to that January webinar and view that. The result of this, by embracing this compliance conversation, not an easy one to have, I say audit, schmaudit. They are real. Believe me, we have seen it. We have seen it with clients. We've seen several, but exposure can be reduced. I'm going to share a very impactful story on our next webinar as I get into the large case study of how real exposure can be reduced or completely eliminated. But there's some work to do, okay? But I want to share that story with you there. The main issue with this is if you have the conversation, there can be heroes in the making. I believe it. I really do believe it. You can look like a hero if you can get them through certainly that audit process, but you can actually make them feel really, really good. Ultimately, they want to sell widgets. They want to sell their service. They don't want to do ACA compliance. So having this conversation can really help them create more efficient ways to do so. All right, ERISA compliance. All right, last one here before we get into a couple other things that I think will be good for you. We've kind of hit on ERISA compliance a lot over the last 12 months. The standard business issue here, though, that I think for many of you that may be on the call here today, you might sit here and go, I don't know. I mean, haven't we talked about it? I feel like I talk about it a lot. I don't know. Most employers think that they're compliant. They're not. I'll show here in a second, Department of Labor says that the Department of Labor, who enforces this, says that 3 out of 4 employers are out of compliance. So some things that I want you to keep considering, keep beating the drum here with the ERISA compliance conversation. And I just list 4 reasons here of some key things that they think they are compliant. It's a reminder that all size employers fall under the requirement. 2+. If they offer health and welfare benefits, they're going to need to comply under ERISA. and under all of those various ERISA requirements. Secondly, employer, when's the last time you've actually disseminated an SPD, an ERISA SPD, to your eligible employees, right? That's many employers cannot say that they have done that. Form 5500 filing mistakes. We see time and again where an employer thinking that they were compliant. Oh, I filed. Oh yeah. Hey, no, Steve, I filed. I'm good. No, you filed once, but you didn't have a wrap document, which means that you would have had to file 3 times. There should have been 3 filing requirements because you didn't wrap your document. You had 3 separate plans. Oh, well, we filed once and we thought we were good. No. So there's a lot of Form 5500 filing mistakes. The last one, think about your small groups, and that's a lot. It's a vast majority of your overall client base. The small group exemption, right? So small groups, generally speaking, do not have a 5500 filing requirement. Okay, so under 100. All right. As of the end of, we're now talking next year, folks. As it stands right now, unless changes are made. But the small group exemption expires, and it expires by the end of 2019, okay? So that means that if you're not getting your clients or having the conversation with these small groups about ERISA right now, they're going to have a filing requirement as of their 220 plan year. So you got to get them in compliance now. The Department of Labor is going to want to see that, hey, did you guys perform your due diligence? How long have you had those health and welfare benefit plans? Yeah, you should have been doing it well before you filed. So that's a great conversation starter. It really introduces what is being discussed. It can really actually broaden the conversation there as it pertains to ERISA. I really believe that there is gold. There's gold here with ERISA in this conversation. You've got to embrace this. You can discover so much. The last bullet, I think, says like a lot here with ERISA. It meets many employer demands with this process. The ERISA process creates a lot of other conversations because you're talking about other benefits, you're talking about funding, you're talking about eligibility. You're bringing into the conversation a lot of different things, and it can open many more doors than just simply the ERISA conversation and getting that compliance. So there's a tremendous amount of treasure, I would say, by having this particular conversation. And these are just some simple bullets to kind of introduce that. So lastly, as we think about this overview, you might be saying, well, Steve, yes, okay, these are some very good topics that we can introduce and kind of bring to life, begin the conversation, hopefully end the conversation with a good result with our clients and prospects. But a lot of clients aren't yet really embracing kind of technology, or what tools are there? Is there technology? Is there, how could I better enable compliance maybe for myself as an agency, but also for our clients? And so I just want to touch on a couple key areas here before we wrap up here today. As you think about embracing compliance and to best mitigate the compliance risk, you need to think about how you and your agency has access or enables this particular payroll processing and technology, but also you need to understand how your clients are utilizing it. Now many of you have introduced new technology, right? Through the likes of, if you joined our technology webinar last month, from Employee Navigator to eCentral to WolfTracks to Bernie Portal, the list goes on and on, right? Those are very good steps. But it's also important for an employer. See, an employer, their largest asset, when you think about controlling cost, kind of these 3 areas here that I'm kind of covering here, by coordinating payroll and technology together, it helps the employer really meet a huge demand and a business issue. It really helps them manage their largest asset, which is their employee, the employee base. It enables through payroll. See, in payroll, generally, you are dictating when a new hire comes in. Why would you first put it in payroll? Because maybe that person is an hourly employee, and we need to start getting their time clock going, and because they're starting work tomorrow. So we need that information in payroll right away so that it's in our time and labor management system or time and attendance system. Terms, you're going to term first in payroll generally because I don't need to pay them anymore. Right? Let's get them off of our books, right? And so tying in payroll processing as a broker, as a benefits broker, and as an agency, by gaining greater access to payroll processing and technology for the client, it's going to help manage these costs. Deduction management, it helps you manage the, kind of helps you audit certainly some of the deductions that are occurring for benefits and things, and also enables you to perform maybe a more detailed ancillary benefit analysis, which could truly help drive in controlling costs. By combining payroll processing and technology, it can also help you in the creating efficiencies, right? If you don't tie in payroll and technology, do you really get out timely COBRA notices? I mean, we're now worried about the calendar now? No, I mean, you absolutely are creating efficiencies with COBRA, with COBRA notices. ACA, 65% of the data that's needed for ACA is found in payroll. And guess what? Changes are occurring all the time, right? It's not the day, it's the year. Things are happening all the time. So ACA data integrity demands that payroll is tied to or connected to some form of technology. It has to, or you'll be worried about the integrity of that data all day long. You also need to consider, so think about what your role is and how involved you get in regard to new hires, benefit offerings, open enrollment periods, waiting periods. I mean, you're helping define that for an employer. And so think about that WOTC, the Work Opportunity Tax Credit opportunity. Well, the employer, to make that even more efficient, you need an applicant tracking system, that's ATS. Onboarding and a time attendance, you need that to be coordinated to be able to really facilitate that in a great manner. What if you had some access to that? What if you had some transparency tools to be able to manage that a little better? And then by combining payroll processing and technology, you can much more effectively reduce penalties under certainly ACA, COBRA, ERISA, Section 125, but even more so, and these penalties can be pretty crazy in the wage and hour side of things. But when you think about the Fair Labor Standards Act and you think about HIPAA and Department of Labor rules, I mean, you think about all the other things that come into play, combining payroll processing into technology where you have access, an employer has access, can be very meaningful in mitigating risk. The next, I want you to think about being connected. For those of you who have kids out there, they are glued to their phones, right? They enter into an establishment, a Starbucks. What's the first thing that they do? They want to get on Wi-Fi. They want to get connected. Being connected is vitally important. And I think with what we've seen from our partners and for you here as well, for those of you who are not, we've seen that there's a great interest in trying to drive a better connected benefit administration technology. Certainly, disruptors that have come before now over the last couple of years, they have shown that employers are demanding a connected benefit administration technology. It's very important to doing these three things: controlling costs, creating efficiencies, and mitigating risks. This is where you can make a great impact and where you can actually embrace compliance, I think, in meaningful ways. Savings on insurance premiums. We talked about controlling cost, right? If you've got connections, if you have things connected, you can better determine when employees should be on the plan, should be taken off the plan, maybe when a carrier was notified of that specific information. You might have an employer where it's meaningful to do age 26 dependent audits, right? There's so much money to be saved by doing that effectively. Think about labor cost savings that can occur so that maybe you as an agency or even the employer does not have to spend money on extra personnel. Because why? Because I've got a connected benefit administration technology that's connected to maybe my payroll, that's connected to carriers, to third-party administrators, to my ACA solution, so that I don't need all these extra people to do all these things. And then lastly, reduction of duplicated efforts. Wow. Just entering information in 1 or 2 systems instead of into 5 different areas can be huge in controlling cost. Efficiencies are obvious. It's connectivity to COBRA needs, COBRA administrators, other TPAs, vendors, carriers, the payroll entity, an HR management system, some other HRMS system that they may be using. Transparency is huge. You as a benefits broker if you're not the one providing that particular technology, you need to gain transparency. You need to gain access so that you have that ability to really drive engagement. You need to embrace compliance, that conversation to say, listen, I can help you mitigate your risk if you allow me to participate in some of this information. And this is where our agency can really shine for you. So drive even better employee enrollment engagement by creating efficiencies through these systems. And then lastly, mitigating risk. By having that transparency, it enables you as a benefits broker to really drive a proactive review. We're not waiting for 6 months later when that COBRA continuant who termed 6 months ago, we failed to notify the carrier. You know what? No. We catch that ahead of time. We catch that as it's happening. And so this goes along really well as we mitigate risk. This can be added as part of your annual analysis, your annual meetings, your review meetings that you have. And certainly connectivity is going to reduce liability and exposure with many of the topics that I've stated, but also, certainly so much more. So as you think about, the appropriate time, you could look at that individual right now who is counting down from 5, and we'd say, when is the appropriate time? Well, I'd say right now, right? Now is the time. Now, there might be a better time to start the discussion off renewal, right? Don't do it right at the open enrollment period. Probably not the right time to do it, to have this conversation. But do it kind of off cycle. Maybe during a quarterly visit, a monthly visit. Maybe it's a specific current event that you disseminated information to your client, and that enabled you to actually engage them in a little different manner and really embrace compliance in that conversation then. But think about this. How can you better use compliance checklists? You may not know all the questions to ask. You may not just be aware of all the specifics of that specific compliance topic. Utilize compliance checklist. Offer, maybe through yourself or through your partners, educational webinars in which we can get specific content to your employees, to your employers on a regular basis. Think about regular email campaigns. Well, all right, do you just want to make that phone call and just kind of rip the Band-Aid, off and have that conversation now? Or, I don't know, could I do a series of emails that focus on a couple key aspects? We had a broker here recently that did a drip email campaign on ERISA and a couple other compliance items, just to ease into the conversation, or at least would enable them to, hey, I sent you a couple emails here recently about this. I'd like to talk to you about that. It kind of opens up or eases that conversation maybe a little bit more. There could also be ways, though, to just send easy alerts, or upcoming topics to remember, right? Current events, things that are occurring that just, hey, I want to notify you of this change. If you have a moment next week, let's talk about it. But I want to get you this information here right now. So the appropriate time, if you're going to ultimately make achievement here in 2018, embracing compliance and having this conversation with your clients can ultimately impact your bottom line. Top line revenue growth, I think, for your agency and for you as a producer. But it also can have a dramatic positive impact. I know sometimes the conversation is, whew, you know, oh my goodness, I've been their broker for 6 years and I have never mentioned to them or even talked about an ERISA SPD. Steve, are you kidding me? I don't want to bring that up. Well, somebody else is going to bring that up. So somebody else is going to do it. You can have that conversation and still make it extremely positive and profitable there for your relationship. They might be caught off guard, right? It's shocking out of the gate. But as they begin to gain some understanding, you know, that absolutely can be a very positive experience. So embrace compliance. And what I'd ask is that you think about joining us here for our webinar next month as we dive into some specific case studies surrounding a small group case study, and a large group. And I think we'll be able to really share some stories, success stories of how embracing compliance with them, with those size groups, how you can really gain and show growth and facilitate growth for your agency. So I want to thank you for attending. We believe that this is the year of the broker, and so we're excited to bring you a tremendous amount of these new topics and ideas and thoughts here to you. All attendees, just so everyone knows, there will be a follow-up email that will go out to everyone. We will provide a link to the recording so that everyone has that. And then if you are a broker concierge partner, we will be providing a copy of the presentation slide deck. So that's a great advantage of actually getting or becoming a broker concierge partner, folks. You can actually get these slide decks and use them in your selling efforts or as you embrace compliance with your clients. So if you don't know much about Broker Concierge and how Broker Concierge is equipping brokers here across the country, please feel free to reach out to our team. Their phone number, LinkedIn, Twitter, you can reach out here as needed. So with that, we want to thank you for your attendance. Appreciate the time you've spent with us here today. Please register for the upcoming webinar here on April 11th. I think that will add some great value to you. And we look forward to participating with you the year of the broker. Have a great day. Be safe out there. And we look forward to our next visit. See ya. Bye-bye.